Greetings and welcome to Wisconsin in Focus, powered by the Center Square. I'm Dan McCaleb, executive editor of the Center Square Newswire service. Joining me as usual today is Benjamin Yount, the Center Square's Wisconsin correspondent. How are you today, Ben?
It is beautiful fall weather. It is college football season, but the University of Wisconsin cannot seem to stop turning the ball over and losing to inferior opponents. So pretty much like most falls here in southeast Wisconsin.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about that about the Badgers, Ben, but this weekend is a new weekend, so we'll see how they do. We are recording this on Thursday, September 14th. Ben, despite Democratic Governor Tony Evers' veto threat, Republicans in the state legislature continue to promote their $3 billion tax cut plan. They say that their plan to cut taxes and make retirement income essentially tax-free in the state is what Evers said he wanted during his campaign. If that's the case, why are the two sides still at odds?
Well, because Tony Evers and Robin Voss and Deb McLemahue don't really like each other is the short, simple, and unvarnished version of the answer to that question. This comes down to priorities. And this is all based on Wisconsin's record budget surplus. Was $7 billion. Now it's down to $4 billion. And the Republicans want to, as they said time and time again, their talking point was to return this money to the people. That the money that Wisconsin is sitting on, some of it's one-time money, some of it is just extra money that the state collected that they didn't spend. The Republican solution for that cash is to give it back to people. This $3 billion tax cut in the Assembly would give the average taxpayer about $770 in their money back. It would mean less taxes. It would mean a tax-free retirement for people who make under $150,000 a year. No income tax on the first $150,000 of your retirement income. Governor Evers sees that $4 billion surplus and would like to spend it. He would like to, as he has always wanted to, expand Medicaid in Wisconsin. He wants to create a new $350 million payment for child care providers. This essentially would replace the federal money that many child care centers got during the coronavirus. That money expired with the end of the coronavirus emergency. The governor wants to replace it with state money. And Governor Evers also would like to create a paid family leave program here in Wisconsin. So Republicans say they want to give the people their money back. The governor says he wants to spend the money on the people. Meanwhile, the people aren't getting either, and we're sitting here with a $4 billion surplus that looks to, because of political gridlock, just sort of sit. Now, that's good. It's there and it can be tapped in the future, but it doesn't do anybody any good when it's just sort of sitting in limbo.
Governor Evers also says that he already signed a tax cut plan, but as Republicans have noted, that the average tax cut that's been put in place is about $36 per, whereas you noted the Republican plan would result in an average tax cut of $770. So what happens next?
Yeah, I went to public school, so it's always dangerous when you're speaking out loud to do math off the top of your head. But a $36 per year tax cut divided by 12 months is about $3 per month. If I'm remembering my
I applaud you on your math skills.
Oh, look, hey, it's the worst. The last thing you ever want to do, and I've done this a million times, do math out loud and have somebody come back. Well, you forgot to carry the one, so you're an idiot, and your argument fails. What happens now? There's a stare down. Is essentially what happens. Just before we turned on the mics to record this, the Wisconsin Senate overrode the governor's original veto. And that's the $3.5 billion plan that included a lot more people, that also dealt with the governor's 400-year school funding request. But we can talk about that in a few moments. But the entirety of the debate during the Senate vote was, who is middle class? And Governor Evers vetoed the original tax cut, saying it was a tax cut for millionaires, because there are, when you change all of Wisconsin's tax rates, the handful of people in the state who are millionaires would get a relatively large tax cut. People who pay more in taxes would get a larger tax cut. It's not some sort of political conspiracy theory. It's just simple math. the assembly plan and a good chunk of what the Senate voted on today as well is to give a broad tax cut to the middle class. Now, in Wisconsin, that means for a married couple filing jointly, that's people who make between $36,000 and $405,000 a year. That is a very large swath. Democrats in the Senate spent most of their time arguing against the Senate override vote of saying someone who makes $400,000 a year is not in the middle class. But the question remains just who is middle class? Okay, 36,000, what, 40, 50, 100? 200, 250, you can find a lot of people in the suburbs here in the Milwaukee area. I promise you in the Chicago area, in the Nashville area, in the go ahead, pick your state capital area. There'll be plenty of people who make $250,000 who tell you they're living paycheck to paycheck because things have gotten much more expensive. So the what comes next? Well, it depends. You know, who is middle class? Who's going to be bothered by not having their money? And don't forget, as we talked about last week, senior citizens vote, and they're not getting a tax cut in this plan either.
Right. You would think there could be some middle ground found on the definition of middle class. Certainly, you Democrats are going to push for the lower income threshold. Republicans will push for the higher income threshold. But there's got to be some common ground you can reach here to get this done. But we'll have to save that for another Wisconsin in Focus episode, Ben, because we are out of time. This is an issue that is not going away anytime soon, so listeners can keep up with all of Ben Yount's great coverage at thecentersquare.com. For Ben, I'm Dan McCaleb. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe.